Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 3, and today I'm going to be giving you part 23 of What If Naruto Awakened the Yellow Rinnegan after his exile. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto was a direct descendant of the sage and enjoy that over on Anime King. And stay tuned for a brand new episode over on Anime King 2, which I do hope that you guys enjoy. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all for helping your support. And yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last part we left off, it was pure havoc and chaos as two men ran through the entire army from all of the great 5 nations. It was Nagato and Naruto as he ran through everything. Nagato was getting surrounded as Naruto was currently surrounded by all of his past friends from Konoha. He summoned the Gedo statue as he sent it to go and aid Nagato as he was surrounded by everyone from the graduation class, including all of their Jonin senseis, as all of them were there ready to fight him, as they thought by putting Naruto out of his misery, they were gonna save him by ending this. But he quickly showed them that that was not an option. To their surprise, he dodged attacks that he didn't even see coming, that confused them as Neji, Lee, Guy, all of them clashing against him, but yet he was dodging their attacks with little to no effort at all. It was then that he realized, as Neji had saw, a glisten of light. As he was able to see it, it was a chameleon. As Naruto moved in and started to knock them down, as he broke Neji's arms and knocked him down, he started to knock them all the way. Back to the fight as Nagato was taking on Tishikage and the Raikage at the same time. As the Tishikage had lightened the Raikage, so he was moving incredibly fast, but Nagato's eyes were snapping around with each second passing. As they clashed violently, destroying the surrounding area, Nagato blowing the both of them away, destroying the Tishikage's jutsu. As Naruto was now left with Kakashi and Jiraiya, as he had knocked down everyone else. All of them were on the ground, groaning in pain, having something broken, or they were unconscious. As Naruto put Kakashi in his place and slammed a heel right into his face, he then went after Jiraiya. As he was swift and brutal, he ripped the toad from Jiraiya's shoulder and tossed him. As the Sage Mode left Jiraiya, as Naruto beat his head into the ground. It was then that Tsunade and Gaara arrived along with the Mizukage. As Naruto told the Uzumakis to begin, as they erected the barrier. As Nagato came over, as he was also trapped inside the barrier as well, with all the Kages. This was the final show here. As Naruto gave them a powerful speech, he told them once this was all over, anyone that stand against him, they would die, because he was about to kill all the Kages. So with that, he engaged, as Nagato engaged as well. The Tishikage and the Raikage went after Nagato, as Nagato was able to outpace the Raikage. Using his various techniques, he ended up tossing the man towards Naruto after draining him of chakra. As Naruto pumped all the 5 elements into a Rasengan, as he made it so tight and packed, he threw it, using his ability to control the energy as it slammed into the Raikage and exploded. The man was blown to pieces. Hopes of almost every Kumo ninja dropped as they watched their leader killed in front of their eyes. The Tishikage was next as Naruto shoved his hand right through her back, tearing through her chest. As she collapsed, as the life left her eyes. As Naruto feel himself getting tired, using up so much jutsus, calling the Gedo statue and also removing the ninja souls, it was using up a lot of chakra. It wasn't until Tishikage came in after he had a direct blow with Nagato. His dust release went off prematurely and there was an explosion. As he trapped Naruto in a cylinder ready to disintegrate him, the ninja's hope went up. He was about to get killed. Once this was done, they can all celebrate their victory. So yeah guys, basically that's what I thought. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So this begins new episode. Jiraiya woke up with a groan as he looked up to see green glowing arms. Jiraiya-sama, as he saw that it was Snaggy apprentice. She helped him up. Thanks, said Jiraiya. As he looked around, what's going on? Naruto and the other one, Nagato, they went off into that barrier with the other Kages, including Lady Snazzy. Jiraiya quickly moved forward. If there was anyone that can do something about this barrier, it would be him. He arrived to see everyone there just watching, as he saw Kakashi. What's going on? Said Jiraiya. Kakashi turned towards him. This barrier, we have no idea how to break it. Not to mention, as Kakashi turned his head as Jiraiya turned his head as well, he saw who was casting the barrier, as he saw the group of Uzumakis, but they were heavily protected by the Gedo statue. The thing towered over them, ready to squash anyone that come near, and also Gurren was standing there as well. What's been going on? Said Jiraiya. As Kakashi turned back towards the barrier, he's already taken out the Raikage and the Mizukage. It was then that Jiraiya saw Naruto get captured in a particle style jutsu. It was over. As he knew that jutsu that could literally disintegrate anyone, there was no way Naruto was going to survive that. Meanwhile, inside, Snazzy didn't know what the hell was wrong with her. He's done so much. He's killed so many people. He plunged the world into war and chaos. He slaughtered Konoha ninjas. But yet still, seeing him get captured in the particle style jutsu, her heart pain and agony to save him. Despite everything, why would she think that no? Gaara stepped forward as well. The Tishikage was a very smart man. He knew that Naruto could absorb the jutsu. Not this time, he said. He filled the thing with layers upon layers, as several other boxes came around the smaller one that compacted Naruto. And Naruto was caught completely off guard after killing Mizukage. This is where this ends. All of the cubes started to glow. Several of them compacted. It didn't matter if he absorbed one, the other ones would go off. Tishikage smiled because it was finally over now, as everyone waited for the results. Only for thump. The Tishikage's knees fell to the ground. His knees impacting into the hard ground. After all, he fell. A scream of rage could be heard from Kurosaki. She moved forward only to be grabbed by Akisaki. You can't. Remember what happened to the last guy. As everyone watched, something else then hit the ground. It was a head. The head of the Tishikage fell on the ground. It was severed from his neck. As the man's body fell over, standing behind him was Nagato. His arm transformed into a buzzsaw that he used to slice the man's head off clean. The jutsu faded as Naruto stood there. As he turned slowly towards Nagato, the man marched over. Sorry for getting myself knocked out like that, said Nagato. Don't apologize. You just saved me. Not even I would have come out of that unharmed. He was building those cubes as fast as I absorbed them. I would have definitely lost something. But you saved me, said Naruto. Can't afford to lose our new Kage after we just got him, Nagato said, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder. It was then that Jiraiya turned his head towards Snazzy. She and Gaara was the only one remaining, and he doubted that they could win this battle now. Snazzy turned her head as her eyes locked with Jiraiya. She could see the amount of sympathy in his eyes, the desperate plea for her to stop. Despite her being the Hokage, despite him knowing that she would try to fight, he didn't want her to. He didn't want her to die. Yet alone, he didn't want her to die by Naruto's hands. Those two in there were both his students. He both taught them. And despite everything, he felt blame. He felt guilty for everything. Gaara, on the other hand, looked over his siblings, were looking at him worriedly. Temari and Kankuro. Shikamaru stood beside Temari, as the both of them stood their grounds, knowing that if they touched a barrier, they would die. Back inside, as Nagato looked over towards Naruto. So these are the two, huh? Yeah, said Naruto. As Gaara and Snazzy wondered what they were talking about. Both Uzumakis walked over. As they stood a few feet away from the Kagis, the silence was thick and tense. This looked like the last hope. These two Kagis remaining if they were to be killed right here. It seems like everything was just done for. Despite having so much ninjas outside to fight, it didn't seem like it mattered because none of them were even able to land a good sizable hit to injure Nagato or Naruto. The Tishikage got close, but he still lost. As Naruto looked at Snappy, before his eyes flickered towards Gaara, neither of them moved, neither of them attacked. Nagato was the first one to speak. Despite your constant warning, despite telling you over and over to just give up, you two still fought. It doesn't matter what you did, you fought. You did not stop. But now as you can see, it's over. Surrender. Give up your title as Kagis, and we'll spare you. Snappy was confused, but it all makes sense now, she thought as she looked towards Naruto. This wasn't coming from Nagato, it was coming from... She looked him dead in the eyes. If you have something to say, speak, she told him. He did not say a word, instead he went through hand signs. As he raised his hand to the sky, all of the ninjas suddenly froze. It was like nightfall was coming. It was then that they looked up. This barrier is being powered by the Uzumaki's seals. Powerful seals are in these barriers, and no matter what happened, it would not break. As Naruto turned his head to see the Gedo statue and the Uzumakis and Gorin surrounded, Konan was underneath as well. This wasn't any normal crystal. It was lined with sealing tags, something to make sure that they would be safe. This was the final straw. I gave you countless chances over and over to give up, but no matter what I did, you still refuse. This is the last chance, said Naruto. Most of the ninjas fall to their knees. Most of them even start to cry. They had family, kids back home. Parents, wives, husbands. But they saw their fate as a meteor. It had bright golden flames on it. It was coming down. They were sure that this would slaughter all of them. Jiraiya stood there helplessly, as the two toads looked at him. Not even in Sage mode can he do something to that. He didn't see any way out of this. Kakashi struggled to his feet as he was propping up on a stone. Seeing that he used so much chakra by using his eyes, there was no way he could use a Kamui and that. Guy was still unconscious from the previous battle. And Lee currently stood there, watching over his sensei, with Neji and Tenten at his side. Everyone was afraid. Sakura felt her arms trembling. As they didn't know what to do, no one knew what to do. Meanwhile, watching, as he smirked under his mask. He's really taking this far, isn't he? Said the masked man. You know, if this thing drop, all of them are gonna die. And I won't get to fight anyone. Well, there is still the strongest person there that he can fight. Easy, Kisame. The time is soonly upon us, said the masked man. Sasuke was silent through the whole event as he looked down. From here he could see the people down there. Not quite clearly, but he could see them. He could feel their desperation and fear and their anxiety. Back inside the barrier, as Gar was stuck, he couldn't even use his sand outside. For some reason, his sand wasn't reacting outside. That won't work, said Naruto. You can't affect the outside area. Snappy stepped forward as she stood in front of Naruto inches away. She could literally punch him if she wanted. Are you gonna kill everyone? Sakura, Jiraiya, everyone, all that you come to know as friends, everyone that you share a bond with, are you gonna kill them all here and now? Are you gonna wipe out so much people in one day after everything that you've already done? Look at me, she said. As he wasn't even looking at her, he was just looking up at the sky, showing no defense. It was like he could tell that she wasn't going to attack him. "Your time is run out," he told her. She grabbed him by the front of his armor as she pulled him close, fury in her eyes. "Stop this," she said. "Relinquish your title as Kage's and bow," said Naruto. Tsunade blinked. Despite everything, she had her pride. To bow in front of him was a clear defeat to show that they were unable to stop him. That the entire world, all the Kages, all the troops on the 5 great nations that were supposed to be the strongest were unable to stop 2 men. That is what they were basically saying. He leaned his head forward as he whispered something in her ears. Her eyes widened for the briefest moment as he was telling her something in her ear. He then stepped back. She made her way towards Gaara, like calmly as possible, like all of their life was not on the line. As he was not going to stop it if they did not bow. He was not going to stop it. Both her and Gaara share a look. Gaara nodded as he understood. It was better to live today and fight another day than lose everything at this single moment and have nothing left. Not to mention he didn't want to lose his siblings. And there was also, his eyes glanced towards a certain brunette that was near his sister. As both him and Tsunade shared another brief look, before the both of them went down, slowly. Everyone watching realized that it was over. As the both of them bowed their head, as Tsunade remembered what he told her in her ears. "This can all be over right now. Just do it. Everything will be stopped. I know that you must hate me right now after all the things I've done, after all the people I've killed. But I don't want to kill you. I don't want to kill most people out there, despite everything. So please, Bachan, just do it. It's already over. We can stop this now. I'm begging you, Bachan." As those words once again made her feel happy, as it made her remember happier days. Suddenly, boom! The meteor exploded. All large debris evaporating, just blowing away in a harmless dust. Everyone couldn't believe it. It was gone. The oppressive shadow was gone. They were safe. Many of them wanted to shout out in relief and happiness, but they realized, despite that, they lost. The 2 remaining Kages bowed. There was no one here that was strong enough to stop those 2. If they wanted to, they could have killed everyone from the beginning by just launching 2 of those meteors, despite them being near. He could use the barrier to protect himself. The crystal wall then broke down as Konan stepped out. She had a relieved smile on her face. It was finally done. Well, not yet. As Naruto turned his head towards her, she nodded. As one of the Uzumakis suddenly moved away from the ceiling symbol, a part of the barrier then opened up. As many of them moved away from the opening, knowing that he was going to come through there. But yet still Naruto did not move a muscle. He did not move one bit. Suddenly, Gaara and Tsunade were picked up. As the both of them looked at him. "What are you doing?" said Tsunade. Surprisingly, he gave her a smile, as he seemed relieved that this was all over, despite after everything that he's done. Another part of the barrier opened up as another Uzumaki stepped away. As he pushed both of them outside, immediately, Jiraiya, Gaara's siblings, and a brunette named Matsuri from the sand rushed over to check on the Kages. Well, seeing what just happened, were they considered Kages anymore? A swirling vortex opened up in front of the first hole that was open in front of the barrier. Meanwhile, the one behind Naruto closed. Nagato looked at Naruto as he nodded. As Naruto raised his hand towards the earth, a pillar of stone came up. As he sat down, Nagato doing the same thing. Stepping out of the swirling vortex was the one and only Masked Man. He was not dressed in Akashi clothing anymore. Dark pants with a strange grey shirt. He also had a war fan on his back, and he was wearing a new mask as well, with Megatamas for where the eye holes are supposed to be. But he was not the only one that stepped out. Out of it came Sasuke and Kisame. Sakura's eyes widened, and so did Ino's. I can't believe it, she thought to herself. After all these years, she hasn't seen him once. And there he was. But he was on that other side with that man. Was he the one Late Tsunade talking about? Was he Madara Uchiha? She wondered. No words were exchanged. As Madara stepped inside, calm and cool, he simply glanced around the barrier. Kisame stepped inside as well, followed by Sasuke. The era seemed to be even more thick and tense as Naruto folded his leg over the other as he sat there. Quite the show you put on, the masked man finally spoke as he looked around. Quite the show indeed, he said. I'm glad that you found enjoyment, said Naruto. You did enjoy the show, didn't you? Yes, I enjoyed it a lot. Not to mention you just weaken yourself, giving me the perfect opportunity to do what I have to do. Yes, I suppose you're right, said Naruto. You might have the power of the Nine Tails inside of you, but it will take you a while to replenish all that power. As for you, Nagato, you should be running on fumes right now after all the battle you've intake yourself in. The masked man then looked up, as he looked towards the Gedo statue that still stood there over the Uzumakis, unmoving. He smirked under the mask. Well then, can't really give you enough time to recuperate. Kisame smirked. Does that mean? Yes. Let's begin, shall we? Kisame leaped forward without a second thought. Samehata came crashing down with tremendous force, right on top of Naruto. As everyone outside stood there, they were not moving, they were watching the final show that was about to take place. As many of them were wondering, which side was this masked man on? What exactly did he want? Tsunade and Gaara knew exactly what he wanted though. He was going to use the power of the Biju for himself. The others were dead. They were the only Kagis at the meeting, well other than the bodyguards. Sakura came up to Tsunade. Tsunade-sama, are you okay? She asked. Yes, Sakura, I'm fine, said Tsunade. What are we gonna do now? She asked. I don't know. Tsunade was being truthful, she didn't know what to do. She was sure that Naruto would handle those guys in there. And once they did, well, the world was basically his, given the fact that he actually bowed in front of him. That was a sign of a defeat for Kage, but usually, when they bow, they were killed by the opposite enemy, just out of spite to show the nation that they were weak. But he let them go. As Gaara turned, I'm fine, he said, as he gave the brunette a smile. Matsuri, the girl, released a sigh of relief. As she then looked back towards the barrier, the smoke cleared away. Samehata was buried in the rock platform that Naruto had created. So tell me, Sasuke, seems like you're having an inner turmoil with yourself right now. As Naruto was directly behind Kisame, he had moved so fast. Kisame cursed as his limbs could not move, as Naruto's tails wrapped around each of his limbs. But that didn't mean, as Samehata broke from the bandages and started to come out in spikes, only for a long black rod that stabbed right through it, pinning it down to the ground. As Nagato then turned his head, I told you not to trust him, but yet you still did. But even I can feel that you're unsure about what you're about to do right now. Because, Sasuke, if you stay in here, you will die. There is no if or but. You will die, Sasuke. Sakura felt her heart speeding up, as she knew that Naruto had the power to do it. Sasuke, on the other hand, didn't say a single word. Enough, the masked man said. Suddenly, coffins break from the ground inside the barrier. Scream could be heard as a geyser erupted outside, as everyone is blown away. It was then that it came. Hundreds, thousands of white Zetsus bursting out of the geyser as they rushed forward, all of them with a sick, twisted grin on their face, making their way towards a small gap in the barrier that was still there. Surprisingly enough, Naruto raised his hand, and the gap never closed. He was the one that stopped those Uzumaki from closing it. He wanted them to come. He looked towards Konan as she nodded. He then slammed his hand on the ground as the Gedo statue appeared inside the barrier with them. The masked man smiled at that. All the Zetsus came rushing in. As the coffins were still there, there were at least 20 of them. All of them just waiting to be opened. As Naruto did not move, no one did. Only things that were moving around was the white Zetsus. One of the serpents came from Naruto's back and went inside the Gedo statue. The thing started to move its arm around. Tear them to pieces, said the masked man. As he expected the Zetsu to rush past him, but they did not. He was confused as he turned around to see. What the hell? The Zetsus are all writhing in pain and agony. What's going on? He said. Black Zetsu then came from the ground. He's doing something. What the hell is he doing? The masked man asked, his voice sounding filled with surprise and confusion. As Naruto simply smirked. You really didn't think I know that you would do something like this. I know that Zetsu is able to copy himself over and over. You once said that you wanted to start a war with the elemental nations if you didn't get what you wanted. And I was wondering, how would you do that war? If me and Nagato did not help you, you wouldn't have the army. You wouldn't have the manpower. It was then that Nagato confirmed the abilities of the white Zetsus for you to reproduce them. It was quite stupid of you to leave one of them on my island. You should know that the island is full with seals. And I was able to capture him, said Naruto. Back at Uzu, strapped down to a table was a white Zetsu. Meanwhile, and I was able to find out something rather tricky about him. Well, of what they're made out of. When I first touched a tree in Take, I kept on having these visions. You told Nagato that it would be a great power if you harness all the Bijus, that he can use to level all the nations, but you wanted to revive the 10 tails. It's all clear to me now, said Naruto. And these things, I don't know how, but they're somehow connected to that creature, the tree, if I'm more precise. So by shifting the chakra and the components of it, by the tissue that I got from that one, and with these serpents of mine that can tear apart any chakra on a cellular level, I'm able to do this. As Naruto waved his hand and so did the Gedo statue, all of the white Zetsus crumble as their bodies start to forcefully push down into the earth, their hands breaking apart, their necks snapping, their bodies are literally pulled underground for their final resting place. As small shrubs start to grow, filling the air everywhere, suddenly, all the coffins lay drop open, and a lot of faces step out. People gasped when they saw people who should have been dead. Meanwhile, Kabuto smirked to himself. After all, bringing out the weak ones would just be a waste of time. This was a final battle. Might as well make it epic. The Tishikage, the Raikage, the Kazekage, the only Kages that he did not possess was the Hokages. But otherwise from that, the army of the roughly 20 reanimations were strong, all of them being top level. As they all stepped out of the box, including all current dead members of the Akatsuki, and the only alive one was Kisame, when not counting the upper ranks like the masked man. Itachi? Sasuke spoke up. For the first in a long while, all of the reanimations started to get life in their eyes. Itachi looked around, taking in his surroundings. Hey, what the hell is going on? Said a voice, as Hidan stepped out of his coffin. Seems we're back from the dead, said Kakazu, as he remembered perishing when he had faced off against his shadow brat. But now he was here. I'm back, said Deidara as he looked around, a smile on his face. And why are you smiling? You know that we're being controlled, right? Said Sasori. Well, at least the world could feel my art one more time. I will hate to leave them unsatisfied. Sasori simply scoffed. Do you think anyone care about your idiotic art? Itachi turned his head. As Sasuke turned his head, Naruto was the one that spoke. Seems like you're right. I should have just killed him and get it over with. Well, You were the one that implied that. But I guess you were correct. The two of them were speaking like they have spoken a lot before. That was strange. Seems I've been brought back to the land of living. And my desire is to kill you. Itachi didn't turn his head. I see you're here as well, Sasuke, he said. What the hell is going on, said Sasuke. As Sasuke was confused by what was going on. After all, he was never told about this. I told you couldn't trust him, Sasuke. After all, he didn't even want to tell you his plan. Would you mind catching me up? Said Itachi as he looked towards Naruto. Because it seems like you're here to cause havoc as well. I'm afraid my time is long over, said Naruto. It's now him that wants to start something more dangerous. What do you prefer? A stable world that is filled with peace. For a pacifist like yourself, that wouldn't be heavenly for you. Or do you prefer a world with nothing but chaos and destruction? Well, the first one seems better. But I take it that you're going to be a tyrant, Itachi said. Well, not quite. As long as they listen, there will be no forceful demand and showing of my power. As long as everyone remain peaceful. Because that is all we want, isn't it, Itachi? That is the same thing you fought and died for. You asked me to do you a favor a long time ago. Now could you perhaps do a favor for me? Itachi looked at Naruto. Before Naruto suddenly dropped down, Kisame felt Naruto's tails loosened. But he was smacked away by another one as he slammed right into the barrier. Lucky for him, the insides didn't evaporate him. What the hell is going on, said Jiraiya, as he couldn't understand what the hell was going on, because that was the Edo Tensei technique. But Naruto was speaking to Itachi like he had a plan set up for everything. Suddenly, a bird came from Naruto's mouth. As Itachi I reacted with his Monkey to Sharingan. I have full control now, Itachi said. Meanwhile, what? Said Kabuto. What's going on? Itachi, surprising as ever. Flashback. As Naruto was standing calmly, wearing his Akatsuki clothing, when suddenly, birds started to twirl around him as the world started to shift and change. You think this can hold me? It is not to hold you. It is just to keep you steady so we can talk. Talk? About what? Said Naruto. You joined the Akatsuki. What's your end goal here? What? You curious? Yes, Itachi said as the both of them were standing. The place was filled with crows as Itachi's body manifested from crows in front of Naruto's eyes. You really want to know the endgame, Itachi? Well, I suppose after I'm done doing what I want, I suppose peace. After all, a world with constant wars and death will just go on forever if it's not stopped. And how do you plan to achieve this peace? Truthfully, at the moment I can't tell you. But there will be a lot of deaths on the way. But they will have to be done in order to get what I want. And about my little brother, where does he fit in all of this? Do you plan on killing him? After all, he's part of the reason why you're here now. To tell you the truth, Sasuke, problem is you're doing, and it's your fault. I have no idea why you decided to mess with his head so much. Because from what I can see, for some strange reason, you're not a bad guy. And what makes you think that way? Don't really know. It's just a fixed sense or something. It's like you're trying to act the bad part, but it's fooling most people. But my eyes can see many things that most people can't. I'm sure you have your reasons for doing what you did. But Sasuke is messed up from the start. From what happened. From what you did. So I guess only you can fix that. Suddenly a crow came towards Naruto as he caught it. And what is this? Merely me asking you a favor, Itachi said. And what exactly is that? Keep this crow for me. I feel like I'm gonna need it in the future. As Naruto scanned the thing with his eyes. What is this? It is not concerned at the moment. It won't. Oh, I know it won't do me any harm. I can tell, said Naruto. But still I want to know. Just a backup plan, just in case. So would you do me this one favor? As Naruto scanned over Itachi. Well, it wouldn't be right to deny a dying man his wish. Those eyes of yours can really see everything, huh? Yes, they can, said Naruto. As he released a crow, he never expected the thing to fly down his throat. As he dropped to his knees and started to cough. And another thing. About the masked man, Itachi said. In the flashback. Itachi nodded as he ran off. It was better indeed than watching the world burn. Itachi! Sasuke says he chased after him. As he rushed outside after his brother. Itachi did not answer, as he just kept on going. Sasuke chasing after him. Back inside. Itachi. Always the one to be planning ahead of things. I'm surprised that you had talks with him. Thought the both of you didn't really get along. That's the whole thing, isn't it? Said Naruto. You would be surprised because you thought we wouldn't get along after everything. Kisame picked himself up as he was able to rip the iron note of Samihata as a sword was screaming in anguish. But I'm afraid it's over. You might be powerful, but not even you can stand up to all of these reanimations with how depleted you are. Hello again, Naruto-kun, said a voice. As Naruto turned towards the man that spoke, his face was wrapped up. He looked like a mummy. As Naruto scanned him. So I'm guessing that you're the caster of this jutsu, aren't you? Oh, that's correct. Smart as ever, Naruto-kun. You speak to me like we know each other. Oh yes, we do. Have you forgotten that mission you went on to rescue your Hokage from my previous master? Kabuto? Said Naruto. Ah, so you do remember me. I'm delightful, Kabuto said. Well, how about we start this show of ours? After all, can't have you regain your chakra now. You're already strong as it is. Naruto started to laugh. What's so funny, the masked man asks. As Naruto reached down towards his armor. You know, I'm not stupid, right? Nagato started to unclip the armor as well. As the Fuinjutsu markings on it started to dissipate. I know that you were coming for me. Why would you pick a time when I was strong, at my most powerful? That would be rather stupid of you. So you wait until I'm weakened. You wait until we are both weakened to take us on. A cowardly move, I must say. But that doesn't matter at the moment because if we knew that you were coming, don't you think we would have made precautions? As the armor around him started to glow, a bright light emanating from it. Chains. It was like chains were being snapped apart. As they were being cracked all over, breaking. Meanwhile, Itachi Sasuke screamed as he released the arm from Susanoo, only for Itachi to block it. We will talk later, Sasuke, but for now, I have to end this reanimation. Reanimation? What exactly is going on? Seems that they've kept you out of the loop, little brother. But still, not now. As he kept on hopping as Sasuke was hot on his trails. Meanwhile, as Naruto and Nagato stood there, the masked man seemed surprised by the new action that was currently taking place in front of him. As the light finally died down, something fell to the ground. It was the front piece of the armor. There was another armor underneath, something more sleek. As Naruto and Nagato cracked their necks. As Nagato saw the smoke coming from the armor, from the tags on them, seems we burned all of them out. If we had went a bit more hard, it would have unleashed everything. Yeah, seems that way, said Naruto, as he cracked his neck. What have you done? The masked man said. I told you. We knew that you were coming. These armors were specifically designed to suppress our chakra. What? Yes. It might seem to be at a disadvantage, but it's not that much. Roughly about 40% will suppress. But every single hit that we took, every single blast, every single attack, all of the residual chakra was absorbed and funneled into our system as well, and keeping it suppressed until we were ready to use it. As I said, we knew that you were coming, So why got herself weak? As Naruto ducked as Samihata ripped through the space that the head was. It was then Mew smirk as Kabuto made him rush through hand sign. Dust release. As the man fired a canister towards Naruto, a beam of pure light as Nagato jumped in the way and absorbed the technique. The army of reanimation shot forward. He now launched himself. 3 tails impaled him right away. You don't know how long I want you to do that, said Naruto, as he smashed Hidan into the ground. He then stepped in the back of his throat as he reached down on his head and started to yank like he was pulling something as he ripped the soul out of his body. As Naruto released it, not so dangerous now, are they? He then had to twist his body as a man came blurring past him, his entire body coated in chakra. Many Kumo ninjas had their eyes open wide. After all, that was the third Raikage. As Naruto was surprised, the remaining armor that he was wearing was grazed at the side. That man was fast, incredibly so. He lashed out all 9 of his tails as he started to attack all Akatsuki members. Nagato watched Kakazu release all of his mass. He simply raised his hand. Universal pull, he said as he yanked all of them towards him. Black rods came out as he launched them, piercing through the mass. He then attacked Kakazu as he knocked him back, throwing him before yanking his soul out of him as he tossed his body to the side. The onslaught continued as Naruto ducked under another sword from Kisame. He pivoted on his hand as he slammed his heel right inside Kisame's chest. The man stepped back, but he brought Samihata down, only for Naruto to raise his hand as he blocked it. Kisame was surprised. It was then that he saw Naruto's hand. It looked like it was made from steel. Naruto then ducked once again, his entire body bending unnaturally as he moved back. As the third Raikage passed over him, 2 fingers pushing forward, Kisame's eyes went wide as he brought Samihata in front of him. The man's fingers slammed into Samihata as he was too close for him to dodge. As Naruto waited at the last moment, knowing that he was coming, he had used his tails for extra precaution to pull himself down because the man was incredibly fast. Kisame was sent sailing as Samihata was damaged badly as he smashed into the barrier. With that, Naruto flipped over the third Raikage. The man brought his hand down a chopping motion as lightning erupted from it, tearing through the earth. Naruto absorbed it and spun as he turned the lightning into a whip and whipped it across the man's face. It tear a deep gouge in the man's face. But he simply came on as he brought his fist down like a Hulk, dropping them into the earth, cracking it. Golden sand then burst from the earth as he came up in a hand tried to capture Naruto. He extended both of his hands. Almighty. Push, he says. He blew the 2 of them away as they were sent sailing. Surprising Raikage slammed his feet into the earth and stopped himself from going too far. Finger. Back outside, there is no way that he can dodge this. Snappy turned towards the Kumo ninja. What is that? It's a third Raikage's special technique, able to pierce through anything, and not to mention it magnifies speed. As Snappy turned her head back towards the barrier, as Jerry was beside her, he glanced towards her as he could tell that she was unsure about everything. After all, she just gave up. So, Naruto was in charge right now. But, if she went in there and helped him, and if he lost, things would be bad. And she wouldn't do something like that. They were only gonna have to wait to see what the outcome would be. The third Raikage shot forward inside the barrier as the man came towards Naruto with speed to rip right through him. Naruto brought all 9 of his tails forward as he turned him in a sharp point. They started to curl on one another as he struck. The finger and the tails coming together, a blinding explosion as the 2 attacks grind against each other. Boom! The explosion spread out inside the barrier. The golden dust that was coming towards Naruto were blown away. All the reanimations were being fully controlled by Kabuto as he suppressed their personality. He just wanted them here for one thing, and that is for them to kill Naruto. Meanwhile, the masked man stood there as Mew was beside him talking as Kabuto was controlling him. He truly is strong, said Kabuto, as Mew was smiling. So what now? I did tell you about certain precaution. The masked man simply open a swirling vortex right in front of him. Zetsu, do it now. As the Gedo statue was unoccupied, inside of those gourds were the gold and silver brothers, the last remaining tail beast shocker that the 10-tail needed. What about the eyes? You still don't have them in your possession. Guess I'll have to go for the weaker one, said the masked man as he turned towards Nagato, who was currently facing off against 5 reanimations, but he was handling himself well as he was ripping out souls from left to right. Meanwhile, as a third Raikage arm was being reanimated, as Naruto's tail had packed so much power to rip right through the man's arm. As Naruto placed a hand on his head and ripped out his soul, a massive stream of water then slammed into Naruto from the opposite side. But the water did not soak or pass him because his hand was right in the center, absorbing everything. Kisame smirked as he appeared in front of Naruto, the bruise on his chest healing up from the attack. As he smirked as Naruto was left wide open, he brought down Samihata, only for one of Naruto's tails to caught it. Kisame, you know, you're one of the few remaining members of the Akatsuki. Wouldn't it be good to work on the winning side? Nah. After all, you're the strong one. And I'm just here to have a good fight before I go. Because I know at the end of the day, I'm gonna die. So it doesn't matter. Well, if you join me, you won't have to. Nah, like I said, you're the strong one. So, Naruto didn't make him say anything as he twists Samihata in the man's hand and slammed it in the ground. Kisame lashed out their leg only for another Naruto tail to block it. As Naruto tails held on Kisame's limbs. I gave you a chance. Kisame took in a deep breath as he was about to release all the water drained out of his mouth slowly that he was about to gather. As he looked down, there was a massive horn through his chest. It was from the rhino behind him. The thing lifted his body up in the air and smashed it into the ground as it started to stomp. As Naruto's summon started to spread out across the field and attacking reanimation that came after him, Naruto looked towards Samihata. You will be useful. He pulled a ceiling tag as he dropped it right on Samihata before it was teleported back to Uzu. Naruto's eyes then went wide as he felt it. It was trying to move quickly, but he felt it. As the Gedo statue was crushing down on all the reanimations, helping Nagato as he removed their souls. As Zetsu threw both canisters, it landed right in the thing's mouth inside of the Gedo statue. As all part of the chakra was there now. The Jubi felt its power completed into one, even though it was not fully completed, seeing that the other path was in Naruto. But it could be. The place started to tremble as the thing started to cry tears of blood. As Naruto tried to reverse something, but he could not. Not even you can fully control the Jubi power while it is being processed. It knows what it is, and is currently being reformed in the masked man. As Naruto glanced towards him, well, I can't touch it now, but once it is done, how will you reach it before me? You leave that up to me. It seems like you have other problems to worry about. As Sasori came diving towards Naruto, the buzzsaw cable extending towards him. Naruto's eyes pulsed as Sasori was slammed into the ground. As Naruto stomped into his head, he placed his hand on his chest and ripped out his soul. You think that was gonna stop me? After everything I went through to get this far, you think your little games, your little trick is gonna stop me? Can't you see what's going on, said Naruto. Just look. It was then that the masked man saw that Nagato had almost completely removed all the souls from the reanimation. But that was impossible. Nagato was strong, but how was he doing that so fast? It was then that he noticed something. Something was moving around the field rather quickly, slamming reanimations down. He was confused to what they were. He then noticed that Naruto has been standing here for a while now, not joining in the fight. As he then noticed his serpents were out, and his serpents were running into something. As he followed the line and saw, one of them finally came to a stop. Meanwhile, one of the Uzumaki's up on the top, as he had long red hair going down into his back smirk. Seems like Uzukage-sama's brought them out, the man said. As they were changing shifts, they may have large chakra reserves, but this barrier was really powerful. Yes, really powerful to keep out any enemies. After all, if you touch it, he would be disintegrated. So, they were changing shifts. Two other Uzumakis behind him smile. After all, they were the master of sealing. The Uzumakis, a child, was better at sealing than most of the grown adults in Elemental Nation. Standing behind that group was Karen, and she had a smile on her face. "They're working perfectly," she said, as she was holding a handheld device in her hand. "He's charging them. With Uzukage-sama power, there is no way that we can lose this." As Karen smirked, everything was working perfectly. After all, these people have seemed forgotten that they were ally with the land of snow that had the vastest technology in all of the Elemental Nation. Back inside of the cube. "What are you doing?" asked the masked man. "You sound worried. Are you finally panicking?" Naruto asks. "You thought I and Nagato would be the only one to come here. We're powerful, but we're not overconfident." It was then that the masked man looked at what was moving so fast. As he then noticed the sweat on Naruto's forehead, he was exerting his chakra into something. And it was that. There was a strange thing standing there. It had no features, its face was completely blank, but his body seemed like it was made from armor. Yet it was moving so flexible. The thing vanished again, as it was moving so fast. "Naruto, you're overexerting them. They are gonna burn out." He heard the voice in his earpiece that was in his ear. "I just need them to keep going for a little longer," said Naruto, as he watched Nagato rip out two other souls. He saw that Nagato was getting tired, as one of the strange robots grabbed onto Nagato and jumped back, as something crashed in the ground. One of the attackers' jutsu, one of the other robots moved forward as he slammed into the reanimation and ripped out his soul. It was then that the masked man's eyes went wide. How is it doing that? He then realized it was connected to Naruto. Was he sharing his abilities? He moved forward to stop him, finally engaging. As Naruto let his hand get coated by one of his serpents, the masked man simply smirked. To think he thought he was going to touch him. Bam! The man was shocked beyond disbelief, as Naruto's fist crunched into the mask, blowing it apart. His body was sent sailing like a rag doll as he crashed. He was confused. Meanwhile, Kabuto smirked. They were here. Well, he slammed his hands together. Back at Uzu, another coffin rose out of the ground. It's time for the real show to begin. It seems that these people were too weak to take him on. Might as well bring out the big guns. The coffin lid was blown open as a hand gripped onto the rim. Kabuto smirked to himself as his wall was destroyed as Itachi stepped in. And so did Sasuke. Two main shows. I wonder which one's gonna be the best. But guys, be in subscribe right here. If you want the next part, do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications they posted. Remember, share to all of your friends and social media platform. But I'm over now. See you guys soon. Peace.